All right, so I would like to welcome up, and some of these speakers you have heard before, but I'd like to invite up our panellists for this next session. So you've heard from Tania. So Tania joins us up here again to support this next session, a group of leaders sharing their experience and passion for the future. Our panellists include Sophie, a councillor at Kapiti Coast District Council and activist leader for climate change, known for the school strike for climate in Aotearoa. Sophie, where are you? Haramai. And Barrett is the General Manager, Localities Development of Western Bay of Plenty, PHO. He won the title of Mr. Gay New Zealand in 2021, which is designed to find, build and develop future leaders from the LGBTQIA+ community. Welcome up. Haramai. Take a seat. Emma May, a young woman, a young Māori woman born and raised in West Auckland who focuses on providing an equity lens and dedicates her mahi to her future tamariki and mokopuna as they are our future. And then Jake is a general practitioner registrar at Tūranganui o te ata awa with a subspecialty clinical interest in mental health, men's health and youth health. He is interested in the intersection of mātauranga Māori with clinical practices. A homai te pakipaki kia koutou katoa.
Kia ora anō e te whānau. All right, so I would like to invite you to get up and have a little wiggle, 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 because I know it's the end of the day and we just got this to get through and we've got some important kōrero to share with you today. So just have a wiggle, 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 and then e noho when you're ready. So as you can see, rangatahi are our future, and you will know if you were here for my kōrero, kaore au he rangatahi, he kuia ahau, hoi anō, ka tae ai au te kōrero mō ngā rangatahi. So I clearly am not rangatahi, but I am able to hold space and share with our rangatahi. So that will be my role, is just guiding this kōrero, but these wonderful rangatahi here are going to share the power of their kōrero. So I would like to start off by asking, ko wai koutou, so for us to get to know our rangatahi a little bit more. So who wants to go first?
Kia ora mai tātou katoa, he mitikana kia tīmata i te mihi ki ngā mihi kua mihi ai tēnei o ngā neke hanga i nei rā. Ko wai tēnei e tūaki ana ki rungo o ngā panekiri ka te tiro whakararo ki ngā kare o te tai o Waikare Moana, e pia tata maina, ka rongo ki ngā kare o ngā tai o Waikare Tāhake, e hoi ana te waka o mā tātua ki tai, ka tai atu ki te poho o Hine Kuramarae, te wāhanga o Ngāti Ruapani. He rata hauora a hau e mahi ana ki Waiwhetu Marae, raro anō i te runanga o te Asiawa. He kai akoa hau hoki ki te whare wānana o tākau ki Pōneke, ko Jake tēnei. So kia ora, I grew up in Wainuiomata in the Hutt Valley, best place in the world. But my whānau hails from Waikare Moana, which is just inland from Wairua, just up north. I am a GP2 registrar at Waiwhetu Medical Centre, so I work about 5 minutes drive from where I grew up, alongside a lot of my own whānau and friends and people I went to school with in their whānau. And then I spend a couple of days of my week working at the University of Otago as a professional practice fellow, teaching hauora Māori and clinical skills to all of our medical students.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou. Some of you in the room have already heard who I am, so for those of you that haven't, kia ora, koe me Lorette tōku ingoa, he uri tēnei no te Waipounamu, ko kaitahu ka te māmoe me Waitaha, e tahi o ngā iwi. So I was born and raised in West Auckland, like you heard earlier, but I'm currently living and working down in Otepoti in Dunedin. First in my whānau to return back to the south, back to our ukaipo. I was lucky enough to get a job, I guess, straight out of university. So I did a Bachelor of Māori Health, essentially, and then started working in the COVID response team at WOW South, the PHO for the Southern region. Now currently working as a project coordinator at Health Equity, and my whole kaupapa surrounds the fact that Māori health is a really important topic, but we also need to build really good education systems. So whereas Jake educates the health workforce during their time at university, I'm helping to train the current workforce. So, tēnei te mihi kia koutou.
Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou, ko Bharat tuku ingoa. So I'm Bharat, and I was born in India and lived in Dubai for 3 years, and then with mum and dad came to New Zealand and grew up in Rotorua when I was 6. Mum's Indian, dad's Middle Eastern. How does that work? People ask me. Doesn't. They got divorced. I grew up with my dad and my stepmom in Rotorua, stepmom being Ngāti Paro. So quite I guess what I call my upbringing was quite a mixed ethnic salad. So there was a bit of everything, which for me growing up was also having a lot of identity issues growing up, not fitting into different communities. Well, now I realize there is no box that my personality can fit into. So I've, Mr. Gay New Zealand, no, it's not a beauty pageant. Otherwise, I wouldn't have won. It's all about leadership in the LGBTQ community. I'm a very loud, out, proud, out gay man since the age of 18. I'm 30, turning 31 now. And yeah, you then go onto the world stage for Mr. Gay World. That is run like a traditional beauty pageant. So I obviously didn't win that. So thank you.
Oh, hard to follow all of these beautiful people. Kia ora e te whānau, ko Sophie Handford tōku ingoa no Paikakiriki aho. My name's Sophie, live in and am from, was born in the beautiful seaside community of Paikakiriki on the Kāwhiri Coast. I'm a Kāwhiri Coast District Councillor, have been involved with local government since the age of 18, currently chairing our Strategy Operations and Finance Committee. I'm also on the board of Kāwhiri Youth Support, which is our kind of holistic youth health one-stop shop in our district, which is just an incredible source of hope for so many young people within our rohi. And yeah, it's a real honour to get to do that mahi every single day, which is connected to my why, which is by the end of my life, I want to be able to say and know that I did everything in my power and use my voice to its full potential to speak up for our next generation, Papatua Nuku, our planet, and also our young people. So everything that I do is for that reason. And so yeah, it's great to be alongside other people with similar passions and similar why. Kia ora.
Kia ora. So you can tell I told you I'm not very educated, right? And so I get made in charge of these rangatahi speakers, and I'm like, holy shit, blown away by just their presence. And so thank you all for sharing. Now my first question is going to be, and I just wanted to give you my definition of equity first, and it was one that was put quite clearly and simply for me from my friend Jazz, wherever Jazz is. And equity to me is sharing what we have with others that don't have. And that's a really simple explanation. But my question to you is, what is your interpretation, or what does equity mean to you? So if we just want to go across the panel.
I think I come to it with my clinical hat on first and foremost. And so if I'm thinking in clinical context and I'm thinking about what I do day to day with my patients, equity to me is obviously trying to get the same outcome for everyone. But what it really comes down to is making sure that we're doing gold standard healthcare, so the best of what we can do for everyone. And that means that the outcome is what happens there, not focusing on everyone getting the exact same healthcare, but everyone getting gold star healthcare for them. And it being done in a culturally appropriate way.
Kia ora. Kia ora. I think working in health, that my definition is quite similar to Jake's. And it was put quite nicely to me, I would say maybe a year and a half ago now, that equality is focusing on the starting point, equity is focusing on the end. And so it recognises that our starting points aren't the same and we shouldn't be treating them the same. Especially when it comes to equity for Māori. I think the dream of our tipuna when we didn't get to write the tiriti, but when Te Tiriti was written up, the dream was that no matter where you came from or who you descended from, you would achieve the same as your counterparts. And obviously a system meant that that didn't happen, but what can we do now to make sure that we don't continue to be cogs in that same system? And so equity to me, I guess, is tearing the system apart and rebuilding it to be better. But that's me.
Kia ora.
I'm going to take a different stance because I also work in health. I'm a nurse by trade. But let's talk about equality. For my people, the rainbow community, we're not there yet. We're still fighting for equal rights. So I can't really make any comments about equity because it's a long journey. It's going to take some time for us to get there. But as rightfully both of you amazingly said, the difference between equality and equity. So I will just say that our journey to equity is going to take a while. Let's just get to equality first for our rainbow community. Yeah, kia ora.
Yeah, tautoko. What's been said, I feel like this is the beauty of going right at the end, is I can just agree with what you've all said. I think in the context that I'm working in, equity looks like those who are kind of on the receiving ends of the services that we're providing being involved in the delivery instead of just being passive recipients. It looks like co-design, and we're not going to be able to get to equity unless we have those sorts of really open collaborative channels through which we make the solutions possible and bring them to life. I think as well it looks like, and it means to me, that all of our systems are centred around people and not statistics. And even the idea of having systems and structures, what are those systems and structures really in existence for if we're not actually seeing the outcomes for our people, for our planet on the ground in terms of the reality of the situation? So I think so often we can kind of get stuck in what we define things, what we call things, how we structure things, how we put things into hierarchy or where things are situated in a system. But actually, some people say the system that we currently have is broken. Maybe it's functioning exactly how it's meant to be, but for the people who designed it and for the people who it continues to benefit. And so looking really intentionally at, our planet's really hurting at the moment. Our rangatahi are needing more mental health support. They're needing greater access to services which currently they're feeling like they're not able to obtain. So equity looks like those young people, those people who are most affected, and our ecosystems and the environment being given an actual voice and being able to dictate the solutions that they want to receive, not just receiving them from someone who thinks they know what is wanted on the ground.
Oh, ngā mihi nui kia koutou mo tō whakaaro. I'm going to ask each of you a specific question, and our first one is for MMA. My friend, how can we influence culturally safe practices in our environments?
I know I helped write this question, which sucks because this is a huge question to answer in like a minute. But essentially, I think a good starting place is recognizing that a lot of spaces don't actually feel comfortable. And if you don't feel comfortable, how are you supposed to feel safe? And so if we can start by first challenging, I think, the status quo, whether it's in health, whether it's outside of health, whether it's simply in the homes that we live in, culturally safe environments start from the fact that you need to build a safe environment first. And then once you've got that cracked, if you do, please hit me up because I'd like to hear how you did it. Once we've got that, then you can start focusing on the cultures. And so for me, I'm a big advocate for Māori health as a Māori person, but I also recognise that Māori isn't the only culture you need to be aware of, and it's not the only culture that you need to be competent in and safe in as well. And so I think the best way to build a culturally safe environment is to be able to work safely across cultures. And so that's not lumping all Māori together, because as you probably hear and as you probably know, Māori are very proud to say how different they are from other Māori, but also not lumping Māori in with our Pacific nations and our brothers and sisters of the Pacific, and then also not lumping the Pacific together into one big nation. And so it's recognizing the diversity and the beauty in difference, and building an environment where no matter where you're from, no matter where you stay, you can feel safe in an environment alongside someone else who's from a completely different place as well. But yeah, that's the short answer.
And you and I had a kōrero about diala Māori, sometimes when you're Māori, you're put in a position to keep the wāhi, the space, culturally appropriate. And you spoke to me about giving tauiwi the tools to be able to run a culturally safe practice and feeling okay about doing so. So we only know what we know, and when we know that we're safe to do it that way and we're honouring and respecting, then yeah.
Aye, and I mean, we all like to say that, yes, we hope to be culturally competent, but if it's as simple as you have to ask your Māori staff to do your karakia, print it out on a piece of paper and read it out loud. That's a perfect step in the right direction. It's better than having to depend on your Māori staff to be your Māori cultural competency. But yeah, kia ora.
Kia ora. He pātai tuarua. Bharat, how do we ensure that diversity is at the forefront of our health services?
Wow. Okay. Let's give it a crack. I guess diversity and inclusion for me goes hand in hand. I'll keep it short, simple, and sweet. If I can put it in 4 points, I would say definitely visibility. We talk about diversity in terms of gender, but I think we need to be courageous and be brave and push the envelope a little bit. Let's talk about different sexuality. Let's talk about genders that are not confirmed to the society, I guess, with our Takataipu community, so transgender community. There is more than 2 genders. You don't have to agree with it, don't have to understand it, you just have to respect it. The other thing would be, I guess, representation and a seat at a table where it's meaningful and not tokenism, I guess. We all work in health and, we are familiar with that, so that's equally important. The third thing I would say is not just being courageous yourself as part of the rainbow community, but I would request for each one of you to be courageous. There are risks that people have taken, and hence why I'm in this seat, in this position as a GM for a primary health organization at my age, because there is somebody sitting in this room who took a risk and gave me the opportunity and saw the skills. And unlike previous jobs where I've had, applied for senior roles, people didn't tell me that you just need to do your time, and you've got time, you're young. That should never be So take risks. Believe people. That also puts a lot of responsibility on me as a young leader to make sure that I don't, muddy the path for people that are wanting to do the same. So, I would say those 3 things. Thank you.
And world peace.
And that too.
He pātai tuatoru ki Sophie Hanford. How do we take into account the co-benefits from action that we take in the environmental space, in the health and well-being space?
Kia ora. Yeah, I also helped to write this pātai. So I did make some notes just to make sure that I cover off all the points that I want to hit, because, it's such an awesome opportunity to have you all in this room. So human-induced climate change has profound implications for community health. Hopefully we're all of that understanding and know that that's so important. So it's something that's very much on the minds of many young people as still being involved with School Strike for Climate. There are kids as young as 8 years old involved with this movement because they simply feel like our leaders aren't leading, and then it falls on their shoulders because we will inherit the future that the decisions that are being made now will create. And so it's a very real issue. Eco-anxiety is a real thing alongside all of the other kind of intersections of challenges that are present for young people and others who may feel marginalised within our communities. So when we organised the School Strike for Climate, we had a really awesome letter written from Ora Taiao calling on all Aotearoa to take a stand for human health at the climate strikes, because as health workers, and this was, quote, "we know that our changing climate is both the largest threat to human health and well-being and the biggest chance to build a fairer, healthier, Tiriti-founded future together." And local government, I believe, has a huge role to play in helping to shape and create that, shifting our decision-making focus and investment focus away from just suppressing rates or suppressing taxes at a central government level, and instead to our mokopuna, to future generations, and to bold, courageous action. So we've got to catalyse that by making serious shifts to the way that local government operates and the mandates that it has to support and empower and enhance community wellbeing and outcomes. Lifting up above economic, political systems, above the terms of power, and thinking more, again, about those outcomes, rising above politics of the day and into responsibility to ensure a better tomorrow. Now, you'll all be aware of the issues that surround human-induced climate change and what that's meaning for both the environment but also us as an extension of the environment, which is very much acknowledged in an Indigenous worldview. That the water is us, we are the water, and that is a beautiful kind of, not only that, but the leadership that Indigenous communities have shown and are a resemblance of is something that we all can learn a whole lot from. So we know essentially that climate change will just continue to exacerbate already existing inequities, and many of those are present within our health systems now. So we have a massive opportunity in our midst, with the window of time to act on the climate crisis being something that we all shoulder as people alive at what I believe is one of the most important moments in history. And that looks like advocacy around co-benefits. So I'll just be really brief in this specific part, but I just wanted to say that there's a whole bunch of evidence that shows that carefully planned climate action can result in more than multiple, positive non-climate benefits in addition to climate mitigation or adaptation: reduced air pollution, job creation, improved public health. Analysis by the New Climate Institute and C40 showed that as well as reducing emissions, improving the energy efficiency of buildings worldwide could add 5.4 million net jobs. Their results also showed that shifting building heating and cooling systems to district-scale renewable energy at a global scale could prevent 300,000 air pollution-related deaths and create 8.3 million net jobs globally. So we've got to recognise that by taking into account the co-benefits of climate action, we can improve community health and wellbeing. We can get people on bikes, we can get people using active modes of transport, and that's a really important thing for us to all focus on at this moment in time.
Kia ora. Kia ora. Okay, for Jake, how do we make health spaces more Indigenous-led, and what ideally would that look like to you?
Yeah, so big question. So it's kind of two parts. So how do we make sure that we are making those spaces Indigenous-led is kind of a lot of what we've been talking about these last couple of days. So that's through co-design, through co-governance, and through working together. But who is that person you work together with? Because there are many different facets of both the sector, if we're talking about health, and also many different facets to Māoridom. So you've got your rūnanga, you've got representative bodies for all of these different things. And so it's about making sure that whoever you've got in the room as that voice is actually someone that's representing something in someone. And it's not just a lone voice trying to be on their own kaupapa when, you guys want to be on a mutual kaupapa that's going to benefit everyone or benefit the most. So I think that's a big part of it. How do we make sure that there are more Māori in those spaces is probably part of that question as well. Too often we see that Māori are put into roles because they're brown, and so they tick that box that they're going to be there as the Māori rep, when in actual fact there are hundreds and hundreds of us that have different skill sets to just being brown. And so we shouldn't be brought in as the Māori rep, we should be brought in based on our skills and the fact that we're good doctors and good nurses and good managers and good whatever else who are Māori. That's kind of part of us, but not the sole defining thing of us. So I think that's quite an important space that we need to be looking at a bit further. What should the healthcare system look like when we've got that going? Who knows? Hopefully it's going to be doing things better, and it's going to have its kaupapa more centralised in what the people in that system are wanting. But we've talked a lot over the last couple of days about just making a start, and we'll work out the rest of the details later. And so I think that's probably working out what that's going to look like is down the road's problem, not now's problem.
Kia ora, kia ora. Now, I want to save a little bit of time for questions at the end, so I'm going to move on to this one. And you would have heard me talk, if you listened to my kōrero earlier, about being the lighthouse. And what an amazing group of rangatahi here. And thank you to those that have given these rangatahi a seat at the table to be heard and taking risks. As Bharat said, thank you for taking the risks. They are our future. Now, we get here because there's a reason why we get here, and I want to know who has been a lighthouse for each of you on your journey, and two-part question, what do you hope to instill on the rangatahi coming up after you? Sophie?
I feel like I've talked
You got it. Go, Sophie.
You start. I think you go first. You go first. Go for it.
My lighthouse. Oh, God.
Can I start?
Yeah, please. Yeah, go for it. Let me think.
So I have the beautiful opportunity to have my lighthouse in the room with me. My mother is here. And anything and everything I've ever done was built on the backbone of my parents. Both of them came from families who, in reality, would be considered quintile 5 deprivation. We lived in areas where poverty was quite high, and to be honest, I didn't even know until high school when all these definitions started coming out, and I was like, wow, I'm one of those Māori. But I had no clue about it because of the hard work of my parents. And so a lighthouse for me is always going to be my mum and my dad, and also my tipuna who have come before me and now watch over me as I do what I do. And I think what I hope to instill in the next generations, which my mother is bullying me into contributing to, but she's got one, she can wait for the next. What I hope to instill, I think, is being comfortable in spaces where I have been uncomfortable, and by hopefully seeing me in roles where I'm helping to lead a lot of the kaupapa in health, that they can step naturally into those realms and not have to be like, oh, I'm the only brown person, or oh, I'm the only rangatahi. Kei te pai. That should be, I hope to instill that to become the status quo, so that when it comes to their time, it is simply natural. Ai, kia ora.
I'll take us from the happy to the sad. So my lighthouses are actually not here, and I think that's part of my drive and purpose and what I do. My lighthouses are the people that I didn't get to meet because of the racism, the colonisation, and the marginalisation that exists in our systems. So my lighthouses are my 2 brothers who both passed away as children. It's my nan who passed away when she was 38. All from preventable diseases that are more prevalent in our Māori whānau. And so those are the things that guide me, is trying to make sure that that's not the reality for other people, that things like asthma and cervical cancer and things like that don't take people when they're too young.
Yeah, still haven't. Well, I'll go with mum as well, but also acknowledging I'm just going to mix both of your answers and put it together. So definitely mum being, got divorced, and as an Indian community, some of you might understand how hard it can be as a female and then a minority. She worked hard and, gave us a good life, privileged life, compared to the other peers that, would go to school. And so definitely whatever I am today, and my why would be my mum and my other family as well, but mum will be number one. And then also people that, as we've heard, that I didn't get the opportunity to meet, but I've been told that I'm very much like my granddad, on my mum's side, the way I look, the way I talk, my anger, when I go quiet, or if I very emotional and very animated. So yeah, there will be a mix of two. The one thing that I would want to do is pave a path for others. I think the number one job of a leader is not to lead people, is to actually build other leaders. Find your leader and build them and grow them, and that's, according to me, that's the number one job. Thank you.
Yeah, I would also have to say probably my mum. I was brought up through play centre, and for me that was just the most kind of beautiful way of learning about myself and the community, and about, you know, whakapapa and where I fit in and where I don't fit in, and those sorts of concepts of kind of identity and discovering that from a young age. So I'd say, yeah, my mum's definitely a foundation. I would also say that for me, the moana, the ocean, is a lighthouse, and it's just a massive kind of source of strength and of kind of grounding, I feel like. I try and go for an ocean swim every morning, and it's just the most kind of rejuvenating thing I feel like I could ever do and get. And the fact that we have, you know, such a privilege of being so connected to the taiao in this country, and the beautiful kind of system that it is, and how resilient the environment is and continues to be in the face of what us humans are throwing at it and doing to it. And so I think, yeah, the resilience and interconnectedness of the taiao, and also my whānau, is something that I'm consistently inspired by.
Awesome, kia ora. The importance of having a why. It's going to drive us forward. Now, we've run out of time, so I can't ask for pātai. So, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou, mō ki o koutou whakaaro i tēnei rā. So thank you very, very much for being so brave and resilient and coming and sharing your whakaaro with us. Please give another massive round of applause for these wonderful future focused human beings. Kia ora.